Welcome back, mining community. Hope we're all well. So we have another episode, and today's guest is George Salamis, who's the president and CEO of Integra Resources, who are a development stage mining company focused on the exploration and de-risking of past producing DeLamar Gold-Silver Project in Idaho, USA. George has a geology background and over 30 years experience in the mining resources exploration industry, and has been involved in over $2 billion of M&A transactions, either through assets sales or involvement with junior mining companies. So he's going to tell us more about Integra Resources and what the future holds for them moving forward. So that's welcome, George, to the podcast. How you doing, George?
Not too bad, Rob. How are you? Good morning or good evening, as it were, over there.
Yeah, good morning there, good evening here. So yeah, just wondered if you can give us a background about yourself. Obviously, I just mentioned that you've been obviously involved in the industry for over 30 years. So just wondering if you can give us a snapshot of your career from way back when you entered the industry to sort of present day.
Yeah, sure thing, Rob. So yeah, as you mentioned, for all my sins, I am a geologist by background. Started working in the late 80s, early 90s at a high-grade mining operation in northern Quebec, and learned a lot along the way. In fact, about half my career has been with the major mining companies, and then sort of in the early 2000s, transitioned to the Wild West of junior mining development, as it were. And it really enjoyed that far more than working for a big company. But the benefit of working for a big company, obviously, is you get to see a lot. You get to experience, life at the face, so to speak, mining. And so it's been a great ride. As you also mentioned, I've been involved in several M&A transactions, really focused on late stage development assets or assets that are shovel ready or going into production. And it's been a lot of fun. And so, Integra Resources is no different from any of those ultimately. So the DeLamar Gold Project that we acquired from Kinross about 4 years ago in southwestern Idaho is just one of those very advanced stage asset, past producer of gold and silver for a very long period of time. We're basically picking up where Kinross left off essentially, but this time, using sort of techniques such as heap leaching to get ourselves into cash flow and production.
Okay. Wonder if you can give us, I suppose, a brief overview of Integra Resources, obviously, from when you purchased it from Kinross. I don't know if you want to give us a little bit of the history of that, or more presently since you've taken over.
Yeah, sure thing, Rob. So when we acquired the project from Kinross, we had a sense that there was a lot that was left behind, gold and silver resources in what is now a 2P reserve. But there was really no declared resource of any sort. This was one of those assets that was shut down in the late 1990s, early 2000s, when, if you were in the business, that was, literally nuclear winter for the mining business, right? Gold and silver prices were at all-time lows. Really, nobody was making any sort of margin at these mining operations. So it was shut down. But we knew that there was a lot left over. So we decided to acquire the project from Kinross and basically look at a different approach, more of a phased approach, starting off with a heap leach, low-cost heap leach, and then transitioning to milling the sulfide ores on the project. So there's actually a fair bit of infrastructure down there. As you can, imagine, this was an asset that was in production up until the year 2000. Roads, power lines into sites, some site infrastructure, et cetera. So we're not starting from scratch by any means in this area. From a permitting perspective, we think that we believed at the time of acquisition that there were a number of advantages to acquiring a past producing asset. This is an area that was previously disturbed from an environmental perspective, albeit reclaimed by Kinross, and they did a spectacular job at doing that. But really, sort of the notion that this was in production very recently, and we're about to restart production, if you will, we believe will make permitting far less complex. There's a community close by that used to basically house and staff the mining operation. That community is still there. They're still massively on side with gold and silver mining, that part of the world. They can't wait for this mining operation to restart because they know the economic benefits for the region. So it's got a lot going for it on that basis, Rob.
How is your PFS setup set you apart from some of your other peers? The CapEx in particular seems quite manageable given the inflationary environment that we're experiencing.
Yeah, so Rob, one of the things, I mean, talking about the sort of my past career aspects, a couple of the things that I clued into earlier on working at mining operations, and I learned it the easy way, and I also learned it the hard way, which is, optionality is the miner's best friend. Having a number of different options available at a company's disposal in which they can proceed to develop an asset is really key to not only longevity but survival of any mining operation. And so what we showed in this PFS was a lot of optionality. So we can start low cost heap leaching and scale up from there using cash flow from the heap leach to build this mill that we've forecasted in the PFS. And that allows us to achieve a production rate of over 160,000 ounces of gold equivalent per year and extend a mine life out to 16 years. What makes us really sort of different from some of our competitors anyways is we don't have the need to build a really big, expensive milling complex straight out of the gate to get us into cash flow. We don't have to do that. And that I think is especially important in this era of cost inflation that's plaguing the entire resource industry. Right now, we've seen it on a number of projects. I believe we'll continue to see it for some time to come. And that's something that really doesn't affect us in any major way because we are scalable. We can start small and scale up depending on the sort of the environment that we're building in. When fully constructed, DeLamar is going to be one of the larger gold producers in the US and perhaps the second or third largest silver producer in the US. So pretty meaningful production from that end. These types of projects in tier one jurisdictions like the US are really rare. There are very few that are on their way to permitting right now. And we have one of them with DeLamar.
How does the phased approach allow you to be sort of optimistic in building the actual project?
Yeah, it's, as I kind of touched on earlier, Rob, is this the optionality factor that really works to our advantage. So at the time of construction of the heap leach, which is not going to cost us a lot of money in terms of upfront capital to build, we can decide at that time whether the economics or inflation is too hard for us to justify going to phase two mill construction or not. We can delay that decision for many years to build that second phase mill construction and nonetheless still remain very economic with a pretty robust production profile. Having that kind of optionality is really key in this inflationary environment, no question.
And how were you able to sort of better leverage silver in this study versus the PEA?
Yeah, so this study relative to the PEA, the PFS relative to the PEA recovers a lot more silver. And that's because we're looking at a much larger milling facility. And it's really that milling facility that processes and recovers both gold and silver that really specifically recovers a lot more silver than say what we had in the PEA study. And that's why there's really no apples to apples comparison between the PEA and the PFS. We're just looking at bigger scales of production. But specifically with respect to silver, I think we forecasted 35% or more of our total project revenue will come from silver. And that's a lot. That's a lot of silver that's going to be produced annually there. And so this time around, we're far more geared to silver than, say, the PEA was.
Yeah. I wonder if you can just give us an overview of what mining is like in Idaho in terms of the jurisdiction. Obviously, many of our listeners are from all over the world, from as far away as Australia, UK, Europe, Africa. I just wanted to give us an overview of mining in Idaho and I suppose surrounding jurisdictions.
Sure can. So, I mean, in order to kind of properly frame Idaho as a mining jurisdiction, you have to go back actually, 100 plus years in time to a time in the late 1800s when, really the state of Idaho was really founded on, production of silver and gold and other minerals, obviously. But some of the largest gold rushes outside of the California gold rush occurred in Idaho. In fact, specifically within this area of DeLamar, or what we call the Silver City district. and really was the wild west of underground high grade mining at the time. That transitioned into bulk tonnage low grade mining sort of in the late 1970s, mid 1970s, up until the years 2000, and it is currently ongoing. In fact, there's a lot of gold and silver that's produced in Idaho. So you have a well ingrained mining culture in Idaho that's used to seeing mining. They know the benefits of mining, specifically in the county where we reside, Owyhee County. This is a county that knows a lot about mining. It's witnessed mining for 100 plus years, so they're no strangers to it, and they have been very welcoming, as a matter of fact, to us.
Yeah, and excuse my geology, but I believe surrounding states are Nevada, Arizona, I think.
Yep.
How is mining in those jurisdictions as well compared to Idaho and Utah?
Yeah, that's an interesting point, Rob, because from a geological point of view, this area, which is known as the Great Basin, is host to a lot of gold production and a lot of silver production. The state of Nevada, I believe, might be second or third largest jurisdiction with respect to gold production in the world. And so Nevada on its own is a massive gold producer, and a silver at times as a byproduct. So this area of the Great Basin, which hosts this sort of this key geology, tends to host these very large gold and silver mining operations. And Nevada has that. Obviously, this part of Idaho has that. Parts of Utah have that. And so that's what we're looking at. This propensity to create or generate these very large precious metal deposits, which is what we have at DeLamar, with close to 5 million ounces of gold equivalent resources.
The PFS shows a very robust project. Is there more upside that we can look forward to?
Oh, absolutely. So the PFS that we put out obviously is a snapshot in time of what the project looks like from an economic perspective, and the economics are actually fantastic. But that's just a starting point, we view, for the project. There's lots more upside to come, we believe, from things like high-grade gold, silver from Florida Mountain Project, which is part of the overall DeLamar project itself. For the last 3 years, we've been drilling Florida Mountain at depth below what we propose as an open pit in the PFS. And we've been hitting these spectacular grades of gold and silver pretty consistently. We now have over 100 intersects of high grade, most of which are outside of the resource model currently. So there's upside from that. And then there's what I would call sort of operational and processing recovery upside to this project. We've done some test work with something called the Albion process, which is a pretty well-known process developed by Glencore, and that's showing great promise in terms of actually tuning up and raising significantly the gold and silver recoveries from the sulfide, specifically at DeLamar. So there's a lot of upside potential, both from an exploration perspective and from a future processing perspective as well.
And with our obviously listeners listening from all over the world, why would they potentially invest or even follow Integra Resources? What I suppose are the key points about the company or USPs about the company, and obviously looking into the future?
Yeah, from my perspective, and this is how I tend to invest, Rob, I kind of look at two things. The management team that's backing these advanced assets that's going to eventually go into production, or sell the asset to somebody else who's going to build it. And, the Integra Resources team is a team that's, well tuned to that. Certainly our last success that we had selling Integra Gold, which was a predecessor company to the tune of $600 million to Eldorado Gold. And now they're happily mining gold in northern Quebec on something that we were, about to go into production on. It's that track record where I think speaks for itself. We've done it before, we're going to do it again aspect, and that's how I tend to invest. And in addition to that, I tend to invest in what I call tier one jurisdictions, where there are advanced assets. In other words, low risk jurisdictions, low political risk, good rule of law, which is what the Western US certainly has a lot of. And a mature district that has proven itself to have produced a lot of gold and silver in the past, That's how I tend to invest, Rob. And, that's what I believe the investing public is looking for. Low risk jurisdiction, very large asset, in our case, 5 million ounces of gold equivalent, pretty close, and a good rule of law in a tier 1 jurisdiction.
Yeah. And I wonder if you can just tell us a little bit about the management team that you have there.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I mean, we've got a great mix of senior executives who have built mines before, who have built and operated, successfully operated mining of gold and silver assets around the world. Forget about me. I mean, we've got Max Baker, who is our VP Exploration, really known as a guru of what we call these low sulfidation epithermal deposits. He's worked on a lot of the really big ones around the world, so he knows what they look like and he knows how to find them. Andre Saint Germain, our CFO, Andre is a real rock star when it comes to gold and silver production. Really well known in the business for really managing a tight ship. In fact, she's worked at operations herself before. And really, that's the flavor of our entire crew. Like, I wouldn't be here today were it not for the likes of, Josh Surface, who's a real dynamo, Mark Stockton, the same. We've got these great executives working for us, and they've done it before. We're going to do it again. There's no question.
Yeah. And as a conclusion, what's the outlook for the next sort of 12 to 18 months in terms of obviously moving things forward?
Yeah, so Rob, as I mentioned, before, the PFS, or the declaration of the PFS, if you will, showing these great economics on a project, is by far the end of the story. I mean, there's far more exploration upside to be fleshed out. We'll be talking soon about Florida Mountain and some results to come from there, and maybe some permitting news from there. Some more exploration to be done, generally speaking, in different areas such as Sullivan Gulch, the Black Sheep area as well. In addition to that, more met study work, and specifically what I discussed earlier, which is the Albion Glencore process, really looking at enhancing gold and silver recoveries there. And of course, we're moving into a pretty heavy duty permitting phase for the project, which really kicks into gear right now with the commencement of the plan of operations study, which is ongoing. So lots on the go. Really, the PFS is just a snapshot in time what is going to be a great gold and silver project. Yeah,
really appreciate your time, George, and good luck with the PFS. If our audience wants to reach out to you, if they've got any questions, how can they go about doing that? Are you across any sort of social media platforms?
Yeah, for sure. So obviously we've got a pretty healthy social media engagement team that's got us all over the place. I think the easiest place to get us, Rob, would be go to the website. And this is a key thing. We've got this great feature. We use this great tool called Verify, which allows us to kind of present data in a 3D manner very concisely. It's a very slick tool. There's a schedule a meeting function on our website. So if we have any investor or potential investor wants more information, they can go straight to our website, schedule a meeting, and we'll take them through the entire project and hopefully make them new shareholders.
Yeah, that's great. And we'll put that in the show notes accompanying your website, so people can have easy access to that. George, like I said, really appreciate your time. Good luck this year. If you want to come on the show next year with an update, more than welcome. And those that are listening, appreciate your continued support, and please share this episode amongst your friends, family, colleagues, ex-colleagues from around the world. It's good to hear. I suppose on this show we don't have too many companies that are mining in the US, so really appreciate if you can share this episode amongst all people that you know around the world. So until next time, happy mining.